There is something deeply intriguing and at the same time inspiring when we come across an 80-year-old who walks with lightness, smiles with a sparkle in their eyes, and radiates an energy that leaves even the younger ones breathless. In a supermarket line, a park, or a gym, they stand out, not because they seem fragile or dependent, but precisely for the opposite reason. While some people the same age struggle just to get out of bed without pain, these youthful white-haired souls go hiking, tend to their gardens, dance, make plans, and carry a kind of youth that seems to have been frozen in time. And then comes the inevitable question: how is that possible? How can two people of the same chronological age seem to belong to completely different generations? This difference isn't just visual. It's not just about wrinkles, white hair, or a straighter posture. The real difference lies in their vitality, mental clarity, the way they speak, how fast they think, and even in how they see their own lives. One of the great mysteries of healthy longevity is found in that silent gap between what the calendar says and what the body shows. In modern medicine, this phenomenon has a name: biological age. While chronological age is measured in years, biological age is determined by actual health markers, like heart function, inflammation levels, muscle strength, bone health, sleep quality, brain activity, and even mood. And that's where we begin to understand why some older adults seem to have stopped time, or better yet, seem to have tamed time. Numerous scientific studies around the world have revealed common patterns among the so-called super-agers, individuals in their 70s, 80s, or even 90s who maintain physical and mental performance similar to those in their 40s or 50s. In research conducted with long-lived populations in Japan, Italy, the United States, and some regions of Brazil, scientists noticed something in common. These seniors had simple but consistent habits and behaviors that protected their cells, strengthened their immune systems, and nurtured their emotions. The secret wasn't in miracle formulas, but in how they lived their everyday lives. Small gestures, big results. And perhaps the most fascinating part is realizing that these older adults do not live in fear of aging. Quite the opposite. They embrace it as a powerful phase, full of meaning, growth, and freedom. They believe there is still time, there always is, to start something new, to change a habit, to love again, or even to completely reinvent themselves. And it's precisely that mindset that seems to set the tone for their inner youth. The body follows the mind. When the mind feels old, the body gets sick. But when the mind remains alive, curious, and full of purpose, the body finds ways to keep up. And it's worth saying, this reality is not reserved for a privileged few. Contrary to what many believe, this extended youth does not depend solely on genetics or access to expensive treatments. What these people do differently is, for the most part, within anyone's reach. Eating mindfully, moving every day, sleeping well, maintaining emotional connections, feeding the brain with novelty, practicing gratitude, laughing often, and, above all, refusing to let age define who they are. In other words, they live as if they were 50, even when their ID says 80. Deep down, maybe the real silent revolution of aging isn't found in modern machines, advanced tests, or colorful pills from the pharmacy. Maybe it's found in everyday life, in the details, in simple choices that, made consistently, change everything. And when we look at these older adults and ask, what's the secret? Perhaps the most honest answer is, they simply refuse to stop living. When we see an 80-year-old with better health than someone in their 50s, our first impulse is to credit it to luck, good genetics, or a strong family history. However, modern science has shown that this explanation is not only simplistic, it's also incomplete. Genetics, while important, accounts for only about 20% of the aging process. The other 80% depends on lifestyle, daily decisions, and accumulated experiences. That's why researchers around the world have been focusing on a very special group of people, the Chong superagers, older adults who defy biological norms and maintain high levels of physical and mental function well into their later years. Studies conducted by renowned institutions like Harvard, Stanford, Northwestern, and major European research centers have delved deep into what makes these individuals so unique, and the findings are remarkable. In the brain of a superager, for example, regions related to memory, language, and decision-making are often far more preserved than in people decades younger. The part of the brain called the anterior cingulate cortex, responsible for integrating emotion with rational thought, remains thick and active. This means these seniors have a much greater ability to regulate stress, make sound decisions, and remain emotionally stable even during difficult times. Another significant finding lies within the cardiovascular system. Superagers tend to have low levels of systemic inflammation, one of the primary drivers of premature aging and chronic disease. Their blood vessels stay more flexible, their blood pressure is better regulated, and their heart rate remains steady even under physical or emotional strain. These physiological markers show that their bodies are not just surviving time, they're actively adapting, responding, and staying strong. But what exactly are these people doing to maintain such a high standard? According to the research, the answer lies in simple but highly consistent habits. They exercise regularly, even if it's just light walking or gardening. Their diets are based on natural foods rich in fiber, with minimal processed meat and almost no refined sugar. They sleep well and stick to regular sleep schedules. They participate in social groups, maintain close friendships, and nurture emotional bonds. They are constantly learning something new, a language, a musical instrument, or a new hobby. And perhaps most important of all, they cultivate a mindset grounded in optimism and purpose. In biology, these habits have a direct impact on the production of telomerase, an enzyme that protects on telomeres, the ends of our chromosomes that shorten as we age. The shorter the telomeres, the higher the risk of disease and the lower the life expectancy. But when you combine good nutrition, restful sleep, emotional connection, and stress regulation, telomeres stay protected, which literally means more years of healthy life. In other words, healthy aging is not a miracle. It's the body's response to a lifestyle that respects it. Superagers also share something that doesn't show up in blood tests or brain scans, a spark in their eyes. They haven't given up on life. On the contrary, they are active, curious, and full of hope for the future. Many wake up early with the desire to live. They make plans for the coming months, and they don't just count the days. They live each one with intensity, and that alone is already a powerful health factor. Neuroscience shows that the brain responds to enthusiasm as if it were regenerative fuel, activating regions tied to dopamine, serotonin, and oxytocin, substances that protect the heart, immune system, and brain. The science of healthy longevity, therefore, is not hidden away in secret labs or reserved for a lucky few. It's right in front of us, reflected in the choices of those who decide every single day to live well. These are people who don't accept that aging must mean decline. They are rewriting the meaning of old age with courage, discipline, and joy. And the most amazing part? Anyone can begin that transformation, regardless of age. So the question remains, if we already know what they're doing differently, why not start today? If there is a clear boundary between healthy aging and premature aging, that boundary is called movement. Among older adults who look 50 at the age of 80, one common trait stands out: they are always moving. And we're not talking about Olympic athletes or marathon runners. We're talking about everyday people who have embraced the habit of walking daily, doing simple stretches, tending the garden, dancing with their grandchildren, or practicing light exercises at home. Science is unequivocal. Physical inactivity is one of the main causes of functional decline in old age, and a sedentary lifestyle can accelerate the aging process more than any genetic factor. The World Health Organization recommends that adults over 60 engage in at least 150 minutes of moderate physical activity per week, which amounts to about 20 to 30 minutes a day. That might not seem like much, but the effects are massive. A study involving over 100,000 older adults around the world showed that those who walked daily had up to a 40% reduction in cardiovascular disease risk, less incidence of depression, greater muscle mass, improved balance, and, most importantly, increased independence in daily tasks. The message is clear. Those who move live better and longer. The human body was made to move. Bones strengthen through the controlled impact of walking. Muscles stay active through daily use. The heart adapts, becoming more efficient and resilient. And the brain, contrary to what many believe, also benefits profoundly from movement. Regular exercise increases the production of PAR, BDNF, brain-derived neurotrophic factor, a protein that promotes the growth of new neurons and strengthens connections between brain cells. In other words, movement protects the brain from memory loss, dementia, and Alzheimer's. It's no exaggeration to say that physical exercise is a kind of vaccine against aging. Another essential aspect is movement's impact on mood. Even light physical activity regulates levels of serotonin, dopamine, and endorphins, neurotransmitters responsible for pleasure, well-being, and motivation. Many older adults who suffered from chronic sadness or a lack of purpose report significant improvements after incorporating daily walks and stretches into their routines. Moreover, movement helps reduce chronic pain, improves posture, encourages better sleep, and even boosts the immune system. In short, when you move, you reactivate your life. And contrary to what many believe, it's never too late to start. Studies with people over 80 show that even beginning an exercise routine at that age yields noticeable benefits in just a few weeks. More energy, better balance, fewer falls, and greater autonomy. The body responds, and it responds fast. The secret lies in being what consistency, not intensity. The best form of exercise is the one you can do every day, with joy and safety. It could be dancing in the living room, walking the dog, seated exercises, water aerobics, or simply going up and down stairs mindfully. What matters most is not staying still. Many of the so-called super-agers don't go to the gym or follow elaborate training programs, but they've built active lives where movement is natural, frequent, and fully integrated into daily life. They don't delegate everything. They carry their own grocery bags. They tend their gardens. They clean the house with music on. They play with their grandchildren. They dance at senior gatherings. They walk to think, and above all, they enjoy feeling alive inside their own bodies. This bond with movement is what keeps them strong, agile, and fully present. So if there is a natural, free, and universally accessible medicine, that medicine is movement. It doesn't just add years to life. It adds life to your years. And the most important question is not, how long do you want to live? But rather, how do you want to live your next years? Movement is the bridge between your desire and your reality, between the body you have today and the body you can build. And it all starts with a single step, one you can take right now. If there is a silent yet powerful secret that links healthy longevity to a vitality that defies time, it lies on the plate. The eating habits of older adults who look 50 at 80 are not built on magic formulas or trendy restrictive diets. On the contrary, their diet is balanced, intuitive, and based on real food. These seniors don't eat to count calories. They eat to nourish life. And it's precisely this shift in mindset that turns every meal into an act of self-care, rather than a threat to health. While many view food as an enemy, they see it as an ally, and science applauds that choice. Research following seniors in regions known as blue zones, areas of the world with an exceptionally high concentration of healthy centenarians, reveals consistent patterns. High intake of fresh vegetables, legumes, whole grains, nuts, seeds, olive oil, and fruit. Red meat is rare, processed meats are nearly absent, and refined sugar is not part of their daily routine. In these populations, food comes from the earth, the sea, the field, not from a package. Everything is prepared slowly, with care and tradition. Eating well is not a luxury. It's a cultural habit, part of daily life, an act of respect for one's own body. Beyond the quality of the food, another secret of these super-agers lies in the quantity and rhythm of their meals. Studies with centenarians in Okinawa, Japan, revealed a valuable principle, hara hachi bu, which means eating until you're 80% full. They don't eat until exhaustion. They stop while still feeling light. This habit reduces the burden on the digestive system, prevents glucose spikes, and protects against metabolic diseases like diabetes, obesity, and hypertension, which are among the leading causes of preventable death after age 60. In other words, eating less but eating better is one of the invisible pillars of extended youth. The impact of nutrition goes far beyond body weight. What we eat directly affects inflammation levels, gut health, brain function, and even mood. Diets rich in processed foods, sugars, fried items, and artificial preservatives generate a silent chronic inflammatory state that accelerates cellular aging, increases cancer risk, impairs memory, and drains energy. In contrast, a natural diet, rich in fiber, antioxidants, vitamins, and minerals, nourishes cells with what they need to regenerate, protect, and perform optimally. Gut health, in particular, deserves special attention. The gut is now considered the Q's second brain, housing trillions of microorganisms that influence immunity, metabolism, and even the production of GIGS, serotonin, the neurotransmitter of well-being. Superages typically have diverse and healthy microbiomes, a result of a fiber-rich, minimally processed diet. Eating well, therefore, also means caring for your emotions, immunity, and hormonal balance. It's all interconnected, and you don't need a strict diet to reap these benefits. Seniors who appear younger follow a simple rule: the more natural, the better. They eat brown rice, beans, seasonal vegetables, local fruits, root vegetables, teas, homemade soups, fish, free-range eggs, and nuts. They reduce ultra-processed foods, sugary drinks, and excess salt. Many also use medicinal herbs, natural spices, turmeric, ginger, garlic, and lemon, all of which have proven anti-inflammatory and antioxidant properties. And the most beautiful part? They eat with joy. Food is not punishment. It's a celebration of life. That's why many of them not only age healthily, but also rejuvenate from the inside out. Their skin becomes more radiant, their eyes brighter, their energy higher, their sleep deeper. It all starts at the table. It all begins with a choice. And contrary to what the industry would have us believe, that choice doesn't have to be expensive or difficult. We just need to look at what our grandparents did. Cook at home, choose fresh ingredients, eat in good company, respect meal times, and above all, listen to our own bodies. Food, and then, is a quiet lever of youth. It is in our hands to decide what to put on our plates, and with that what we want to harvest in the years ahead, because, as the old saying goes, we are what we eat, but we are also what we choose not to eat. Among the many strategies for living longer and better, there is one that is often overlooked, perhaps because it's silent, invisible, and free. But the older adults who look 50 at 80 know, even if they don't always put it into words, that there is a fundamental pillar sustaining their vitality: deep, regular, restorative sleep. Sleeping well is not a luxury, it's pure physiology. It is during sleep that the body regenerates, the brain reorganizes, hormones rebalance, and the immune system strengthens. Without it, even the best nutrition, the best exercise, or the best medications have limited effect. Because it is at night, in the silence of the pillow, that true healing begins. Sleep medicine has advanced in recent years and presents alarming data. Poor sleep quality is directly linked to cardiovascular disease, diabetes, depression, obesity, dementia, and accelerated aging. Sleeping too little or poorly disrupts melatonin production, deregulates cortisol, increases systemic inflammation, and compromises memory and focus. In older adults, these effects are even more intense. And the problem is common. It's estimated that up to 50% of seniors suffer from some type of sleep disorder, whether insomnia, apnea, fragmented sleep, or difficulty entering deep sleep. But the good news is that it can be treated and transformed. The so-called superages, those who radiate energy well into their 80s, tend to treat their nighttime routine as sacred. They don't use screens late at night. They avoid heavy meals before bed. They create winding down rituals, reading a book, sipping tea, praying, or simply enjoying the quiet. They go to bed and wake up at the same time, even on weekends. Their bedrooms are dark, quiet, and cool. They avoid caffeine after midday. They prefer warm evening showers. And most importantly, they respect sleep as a vital cycle, not as a disposable pause. Science backs this up. During deep sleep, especially in the deepest phases of the REM cycle, the body releases growth hormone, which is essential for cellular regeneration, muscle strength, and bone maintenance. The brain, in turn, activates a system called the glymphatic system, responsible for washing away toxins accumulated throughout the day, including beta-amyloid protein, associated with Alzheimer's. In other words, sleep is the brain's janitor and the body's surgeon. It repairs, cleans, balances, and fortifies, especially in later life. Additionally, sleeping well improves mood, increases patience, strengthens the immune system, and helps regulate appetite. People who are sleep-deprived tend to eat more and worse, and are more impulsive and less attentive. All of this contributes to fertile ground for early aging. On the other hand, seniors who sleep well report clearer thinking, fewer body aches, more energy throughout the day, and a stable emotional state that shows in every action. Sleep is not just rest, it is preventive medicine in its purest form. For those who struggle with sleep, there are simple and effective tools available. The practice known as sleep hygiene includes a set of habits that help signal the body that it's time to rest. Turning off screens an hour before bed, avoiding heated conversations or stimulating content late in the day, dimming the lights after sunset, drinking calming teas like chamomile, passion flower or fennel, meditating for 5 minutes before lying down, deep breathing, gentle stretching, reading something light, and most importantly, respecting the body's rhythm, without rushing, without guilt, without resistance. The super-agers who grow old with vitality do not ignore sleep. They guard it like a treasure, because they know that in the quiet of the bedroom, the body rebuilds itself to live one more day fully. The world can wait, so can notifications. Life calls for a pause. It calls for silence. And in that nightly pause, the body gives thanks. The heart slows down, the mind resets, and time seems to move slower. Perhaps this is the true secret to eternal youth, learning to sleep well and letting the body do its magic. If there is one organ that most accurately determines whether someone is aging from the inside out, that organ is the Kandam brain Hai-Ka. Contrary to popular belief, mental aging is neither inevitable nor proportional to age. There are people in their 80s who are learning new languages, playing instruments, reading voraciously, writing memoirs, taking online courses, playing chess, solving puzzles, and still surprising younger folks with the agility of their minds. What these older adults have discovered, either intuitively or through experience, is that the brain does not retire. It needs to be challenged, nourished, and stimulated, just like any other muscle in the body. And when that happens, the results are magical. Aging slows down. Neuroscience research has revealed a fascinating concept: neuroplasticity. This term refers to the brain's remarkable ability to adapt, form new connections, build new neural circuits, and even regenerate damaged areas, regardless of age. Yes, even after 60, 70, or 80 years, it is possible to learn, remember, improve focus, and expand reasoning. But for that to happen, the brain must remain in constant motion, and that's exactly what super-agers can do. They don't settle into passive routines or repeat the same tired phrases. They thirst for the new. Curiosity is the fuel of a youthful mind. The brain works like a garden. If we don't plant new seeds, the weeds of forgetfulness and mental fog take over. Super-agers know this. They challenge their minds every day. They learn to use smartphones, explore apps, write long messages or letters, read entire books, even with tired eyes. Some go back to school, attending in-person or online classes. Others take on mentally stimulating hobbies like embroidery, crafts, painting, Sudoku, crossword puzzles, creative writing, or learning new recipes. What matters is not complexity, but the emotional and intellectual engagement with the activity. Studies show that regular cognitive activity can reduce the risk of dementia and Alzheimer's by up to 50%. That's because challenging the brain stimulates the creation of new synapses, the connections between neurons, and activates brain regions that might otherwise decline. Reading, for example, engages areas related to memory, empathy, language, and imagination. Learning new skills activates the frontal lobe, responsible for planning, judgment, and decision-making. And this has a direct effect on everyday life: more autonomy, more confidence, more clarity in facing challenges. Another powerful factor is the mental environment in which an older adult lives. The mind needs positive stimuli: a meaningful conversation, a museum visit, an inspiring documentary, a story of resilience, or exchanging experiences with younger generations. The mind is nourished by what we see, hear, read, and feel. Super-agers create environments rich in stimulation and low in negativity. They are intentional about what they consume with their eyes and ears. More than that, they share. They tell stories, give advice, take part in family life and their communities, and that keeps them mentally young, because a teaching brain also learns. Even those who think, "I'm too old to learn," eventually discover that the mind blossoms when nurtured with kindness, patience, and challenge. It's never too late to start writing a journal, never too early to tell stories to the grandkids, never excessive to start jotting down dreams, revisiting old memories, or learning a new technology. The mind loves to be surprised, and the more we surprise it, the more it responds with vigor. Mental youth isn't a gift. It's a daily decision to keep learning. And in the end, an active brain doesn't just protect against illness, it also increases the joy of living. Life gains new meaning. Time passes with purpose. Self-esteem grows. And that spark in the eyes, the one many call eternal youth, is nothing more than the light of a mind that refuses to dim. Because while the body ages, a curious mind remains young. Some older adults carry their age like a burden, others like a medal. But there are those rare and increasingly numerous who carry it as a celebration. They are the ones who don't just grow old, they live. Who don't merely survive the years, but transform them into chapters filled with color, intensity, and meaning. And when we ask ourselves why these people seem so alive, even past 70, 80, or 90 years old, the answer often lies beyond the body. It lies in their emotions, in the feelings they choose to nurture, in the emotions they decide to embrace, in the way they face life with lightness, despite the weight of time. Science has revealed something fascinating. Emotional states directly influence the aging process. Positive emotions like gratitude, joy, love, enthusiasm, and compassion are not just pleasant feelings. They are also powerful biological agents. They reduce inflammation in the body, strengthen the immune system, regulate hormones, and increase longevity. Long-term studies of happy older adults show that they live longer, get sick less, and recover more quickly. And it's not about living in constant euphoria, it's about welcoming life with acceptance, optimism, and purpose. Super agers. Those who radiate emotional vitality share one thing in common: they have a reason to wake up each day. Sometimes that reason is simple: caring for a plant, making lunch for the grandkids, finishing a piece of embroidery, praying for someone, writing in a journal. But that reason is enough to give life meaning. They are not stuck in the past, though they know how to honor it. Nor are they trapped in fear of the future. They live in the present, with presence and intention. And this mindset isn't a gift, it's an emotional construction, built through repeated choices, cultivated thoughts, and forgiveness, especially toward themselves. Emotions also shape the brain. Chronic negative emotions like anger, resentment, fear, loneliness, and despair activate brain areas associated with stress and pain. Over time, this harms memory, creativity, sleep, the immune system, and heart health. In other words, the emotions we carry define the body we inhabit. On the other hand, positive emotions activate regions linked to reward, motivation, and empathy. They stimulate dopamine, serotonin, and endorphins. And with that, an older adult who lives with a light heart becomes more resistant to illness, more present in relationships, and more capable of seeing beauty in small things. Cultivating healthy emotions is a practice, a daily exercise in looking within and choosing what we want to carry with us. Gratitude, for example, is one of the most powerful feelings in this process. People who keep gratitude journals report fewer symptoms of depression, more energy, better sleep, and higher life satisfaction. Superagers often cultivate gratitude as an invisible habit. They give thanks for their health, for the pain they overcame, for loved ones, for simple joys. This perspective doesn't erase hardships, but it illuminates the path forward. Moreover, they don't isolate themselves emotionally. Even when they live alone, they maintain emotional connections. They write letters, send messages, make visits, receive visitors, talk to God, to their children, to neighbors, to childhood friends. Sharing emotions is as vital as breathing, because repressed emotion sickens, but expressed emotion, even silently, heals. Superagers understand this. They cry when they need to, laugh whenever they can, forgive more, demand less, and walk through life with a lighter soul. And perhaps their greatest emotional secret is this: they allow themselves to feel. They don't pretend to be strong all the time. They know that to feel is to live, and to live is to allow yourself to be vulnerable, open, human. Emotional youth is not the absence of pain. It's the ability to transform pain into growth, loss into memory, fear into courage. These elders teach us that the greatest strength in life doesn't reside in muscles, but in a soul that refuses to close. In the end, what keeps us young is not tight skin or a quick step. It's a high, peaceful heart, a harmonious mind, balanced emotions. Because those who feel deeply live intensely, and those who live that way, even as time passes, remain eternally young. There is an invisible, powerful, and silent force that sustains the longevity of the most vibrant elders, and that force doesn't come from the gym, the pharmacy, or even genetics. It comes from the relationships they cultivate throughout life. Yes, we're talking about human connections. Friends, neighbors, children, grandchildren, partners, walking buddies, spiritual companions, community groups, bonds forged in the simplest gestures. Super-agers don't grow old alone. And that makes all the difference, because loneliness isn't just sad, it makes us sick. And affection, on the other hand, heals. Robust research from Harvard University, which has followed people for over 80 years, reached a unanimous conclusion. The single most determining factor for a long and happy life is not money, fame, or professional success. It is the quality of our relationships. People with strong social connections live longer, have fewer chronic diseases, experience less cognitive decline, and feel more fulfilled. Those who age in isolation are at greater risk of depression, anxiety, insomnia, heart disease, and even early death. Why? Because the human brain is wired for connection. We are social beings, and aging well requires belonging. Super-agers who inspire with their vitality make that sense of belonging a priority. They join groups, call their friends, send messages, help their neighbors, mentor the young, share old stories, listen with attention, visit those in need, exchange recipes, play cards, sing together. They understand that being with others isn't a waste of time. It's an investment in life. And the most remarkable thing is that even when old bonds fade, through death, distance, or disconnection, they create new ones, because they know the heart doesn't retire. It needs to beat for something, or someone. It's not about being surrounded by crowds, it's about the quality of connection. A sincere conversation means more than 1,000 superficial interactions. A hug can be more therapeutic than any medication. A caring look, a shared laugh, a heartfelt vent, all of these strengthen the mind, balance the emotions, and even regulate the immune system. Yes, affection is biological. Touch releases oxytocin. Conversation activates brain areas tied to empathy. Kindness lowers cortisol. Being with loved ones literally rejuvenates our cells. That's why super-agers don't isolate themselves. They embrace social life as a vital component of their health. Even the shy ones, even those who've lost loved ones, even those without a large family circle, they still find ways to connect through a community garden, a prayer group, a craft workshop, a class, a book club, a coffee chat in the park. Where there are people, there's possibility. And where there is exchange, life energy flows. That's the energy they seek and receive in return. And there's something even more beautiful. Elders who nurture relationships don't just benefit from them. They become a source of healing for others. They are advisors, examples, emotional havens. Sometimes with just a phrase, they change someone's day. With a story, they ignite hope. With a gesture, they teach a lesson in empathy. Relational aging is a form of wisdom, of legacy, of love in action. Because when an elder connects, they don't just live longer, they help others live better. So if there is one pillar of youth that can't be bought, bottled, or prescribed, it is called human connection. In it lies the true antidote to emotional aging, because the most painful kind of old age isn't that of a tired body, it's that of an isolated soul. And the greatest sign of youth, even at age 90, is the desire to be with others, to be useful, to be remembered, to be loved. While many associate aging with loss, decline, and limitation, there is a growing group of older adults who are redefining every one of these concepts. They don't ignore their wrinkles or deny the passing of time, but they also don't passively accept the labels society imposes on old age. They challenge expectations, rewrite their stories, and above all, think differently. What makes these elders so vibrant, so present, so inspiring isn't just what they eat, how much they move, or who they spend time with. It's how they see themselves and the world. They've developed something powerful, a mindset rooted in growth, purpose, and ownership. Positive psychology has already proven that the way we think directly influences how we age. The renowned researcher Carol Dweck of Stanford showed that people with a growth mindset, those who believe in their ability to grow, learn, and adapt, live with greater motivation, handle challenges better, and enjoy better physical and emotional health. In older adults, this mindset is even more impactful. Those who believe they can continue to grow beyond 60 activate brain regions linked to resilience, reduce stress hormone levels, and strengthen the immune system. In other words, the mind shapes the body, and thought shapes aging. Superagers don't define themselves by their limitations. They don't say, "I can't," before they try. They don't repeat, "That's for young people." They say, "Why not?" They are the ones who learn to use social media at 80, who start painting at 70, who launch a business at 65, who fall in love again at 90. They see each new day as a chance to experience something they never have. And this is not a denial of age. It's about embracing life with courage. Even when the knees ache, even when vision fades, even when the world suggests otherwise. This transformative mindset is nurtured by emotional autonomy. Superagers know they don't control everything, but they do control their attitude. They choose not to play the victim, even after loss. They don't compare themselves to younger people. They compare themselves to who they were yesterday. They celebrate small victories, honor their progress, and forgive themselves for the stumbles. They understand that living well doesn't mean avoiding mistakes. It means rising with dignity and continuing to write their story with pride. A rejuvenating mindset also manifests in how they view time. While many see the passing years as a warning of the end, they see time as a beginning. Time to change, reconcile, express gratitude, create, serve. Time, for them, is an ally, not an enemy. Each day is a privilege, each new morning a blank page. They don't await the future in fear. They build the future with intention. And the effects are real. Studies show that seniors who hold a positive view of aging live, on average, 7.5 years longer than those with a negative outlook. That's because optimism reduces stress, protects the heart, encourages healthier choices, and strengthens social bonds. Furthermore, a positive mindset is linked to greater engagement in meaningful activities, from volunteering to personal projects. In short, those who believe they still matter find ways to express that value. At its core, the mindset of superagers is a powerful reminder. We don't age only in the body, we age first in the mind. And if we cultivate thoughts of strength, purpose, and joy, it's possible to live fully until our final breath. It's not about denying reality. It's about choosing which story we'll tell about it. And superagers have chosen the most beautiful one, the story that life is always worth living. We've reached the most important point of this journey, what to do with everything we've heard so far. Because in the end, information without action is just curiosity. But when knowledge becomes a decision, it turns into power. And that's exactly what superagers teach us with their lives. It's not about knowing the secret, it's about living the secret. They don't follow magic formulas or wait for endless motivation. They've built routines, habits, and rituals that, when repeated day after day, build youthfulness within old age. And now the question for you watching this is, what will be your first step? Before anything else, understand this. Rejuvenating is not about turning back time. It's about taking charge of the now. It's about caring for the body with kindness, the mind with lightness, the emotions with wisdom, and your relationships with presence. It's about transforming your routine into an ally, not a prison. And it all starts with simple choices. That's why we've created an accessible action plan inspired by what superagers actually do, divided into 3 levels: daily, weekly, and monthly. Daily. Incorporate 3 essential habits. Move your body, even if just for 20 minutes. A walk, a dance, a stretch session is enough. Eat consciously. Cut down on sugar. Avoid ultra-processed foods. Increase vegetables. Drink more water. Cultivate one positive emotion. Whether through gratitude, a pleasant conversation, a smile, a prayer, or a quiet moment with yourself. Weekly, and set goals that nourish your mind, body, and soul. Read something new. Connect with someone you love or admire. Learn something new, even something small. Take time to reorganize your space, your thoughts, or your dreams. Go to bed earlier at least 2 nights of the week. Monthly, pause to evaluate and adjust. Do a health check-in, exams, appointments, and your mental and physical well-being. Join a new social activity, even if just to listen. Reflect. What did I do this month that made me feel more alive? Record your accomplishments, no matter how small. Celebrate yourself. This routine, although it may seem simple, holds the power to rebuild your biological time, strengthen your brain, renew your emotional life, and give you back the energy to live with intensity, even if you've heard it's too late. Because the truth is, it's never too late when the decision is now. And for those who think change is too hard, remember, superagers also face pain, loss, and limitations. What sets them apart is the courage to keep going, the desire to get better, and the belief that there's still so much life to live. They don't cling to what they've lost. They focus on what they can still gain, and that might be the greatest lesson we can take with us. Time is not an enemy, i.e., it's a mirror. It reflects what we choose to do with it. So, why not start today? With a step, a choice, a decision. Because tomorrow is the fruit of what you plant now. And if you plant movement, lightness, joy, learning, healthy bonds, and uplifting thoughts, you won't just live longer, you'll live better. And as the superagers show us every day, that's what truly matters.